Hey everybody, it's Free to Play Bust. We're getting ready to start up expedition number 72. This is the first one of the seven or the non 094 patch. So it has the new Vladimir card pool within expeditions, and then the changes to kind of highlight my initial impressions video on the patch, or that Elise just got added to Ancient Evil in place of Thresh, and it now carries the spider theme. And then Teemo, Sherman Boom got altered to be more aggressive. They added the aggressive cards back into Sherman Boom. They actually took Mushroom Cloud out of Sherman Boom and added in the Aeronaut and Get Excited. The cloning program Ezreal got a bit worse. They took Mystic Shot and True Shot Barrage out of cloning program Ezreal, so it's much harder to put together the Ezreal Freylord deck centered on targeting opponents' things with the Freylord units, whether it's Frostbite Archer or the 1 damage guy, and then the Frostbite spells. And then there's some minor champion changes. Draven got a boost, Callista got a change. We do need to look at Callista. I wasn't sure how her change actually panned out. Where you at, girl? There it is. Katarina, that's what I meant. When you play it, it creates the Blade's Edge, and then she still does the recall thing. Okay, so she's much improved. I wasn't sure how this panned out in the video as to whether or not this Blade's Edge thing just completely replaced her flip ability with the recall. So she's much improved. I thought that was a major nerf if they took away her rally ability, but that's not what happened here. So that's pretty good with her. Yasuo also got an upgrade, but as far as Yasuo goes, I feel that he's not the problem, and it's his surrounding cast. And I think he might be improved once the next set comes out and more stuns are available. But all in all, if you're wanting to see my full overview of the changes, it's in the recap video I did. It's the previous one posted to this. But now let's jump in and get our first expedition running for this set. Oh, gonna fix this. More screen. Look at that. Okay, so just going from memory here, there are no changes to Disruption Darius. Not a huge fan of this set. I think Guile is unplayable. All the good cards we want from Darius appear in Nox and Might. Shadows and Dust Zed did get a change in that they took out the ephemeral guy, the 4/3 for 1, and I feel like they did one more thing here. It made Deathmarks work. They might have taken Will of Ionia out, I don't remember. And then Callista, the only changes here in Afterlife were the change to Callista. She flips on 3 allies instead of 4, so it's a slight boost to her. But here, none of these sets are particularly exciting. I really don't like Afterlife. This is just a set of cards that I don't think is very good. The only reason I ever typically want to be an Afterlife is if we're trying to be a 100% Shadow Isles deck. And that's just not a theme that I'm real high on. And so I think the only kind of real set of cards here is the Shadows and Dust Zed. Shadow Mark being good removal, Shadow Assassin's a good value card, and this can either be a build around or a supporting kind of set. Let's see. I think we're just going to be going full Shadows and Dust here. We haven't played Hecarim in a while. We got the full set here, so we can see if we can't just actually draft a real Shadows and Dust deck. We'll want to pull up what the actual changes were before we click on this. But here, this is a strange Nox and Might pack. I was expecting this to be a Disruption Darius, given that I had both Intimidating Roar and Guile. But these cards are just way too weak. I do really like a Nox and Might Darius, but these are kind of like the turds of the deck pool. The only reason I'll be taking this here is because I think Nox and Might is really powerful. And here, not a real huge fan of cloning program Ezreal or Nivea. They did just change this. The Trapper just got upgraded to a 3/3 from a 2/2, which makes him not hot garbage. And then they've added the Yeti's theme into this, and so this is the idea being is that you can play, your Averosian Trapper to get your Enraged Yetis in your deck. You can draw and play an Enraged Yeti and then make copies of it so you can be drawing, one cost 5/5s. I think that's a lot of work for a little payoff, and so I'm not. I'll try to give it a go at some point. The new set comes out in 2 weeks, and so we only have 2 weeks of time to do things. I'll try to pull that off at some point, but there's no guarantees here. Experience would tell me that this is still just a garbage pool of cards. So we're going to take this Shadows and Dust Hecarim, and let's real quick look at what the changes were to see what's happening here. Okay, got the patch notes pulled up. They added in Devori Blaze Scout, Twin Disciplines, Islander Vengeance the Harrowing. The big thing I think out of these is Twin Disciplines is a real combat trick. Typically in this set you only had access to the Shadow Isles +2/+2, so getting access to Twin Disciplines, actually I don't know if that +2/+2 actually existed in the Shadow Isles set, or the Shadows and Dust set. And then you're also picking up Vengeance and the Harrowing. The way we typically try to make these, there's a few different deck pools that we'll try to do with this. I think the strongest one is you're just making a Hecarim deck. You're just kind of ignoring the themes and just building around Hecarim. The second one being you're focusing on Shark Chariots. You're trying to get a big bunch of Shark Chariot value by just attacking with at least one ephemeral every turn and then bringing the sharks back. And then lastly, you just have access to just, Zed is a really strong champion and just doing Zed things. So we'll have to kind of see how that pans out. We should be seeing more Shadows and Dust cards if we take them earlier, because it has this cohesiveness rating increase. And then the cards pulled out were both from the Zed side, losing Shadow Fiend and Shadow Shift. And then I guess also to note, in the previous patch, they added the 5/5 Lifesteal Ephemeral to the Zed half of this deck, and he's extremely, extremely powerful. But all in all, Devori Blade Scout don't really want. Twin Disciplines, Vengeance, and the Harrowing are all extremely good. So I think a deck pool that was already pretty good got some upgrades here. Okay, and I need to update my sheet here. This is just taken from the Riot guy that posted it. I have seen some other people on the internets updating these as they go, and I would prefer to just take their work and give them a thanks for it as opposed to doing it myself. But this is where we're at least right now. As we just noticed, Shadow Fiend is out. Shadow Shift is also out. And then added in were Vengeance and Twin Disciplines, the Harrowing, as kind of the interesting cards. And so, yeah, kind of the way these decks will pan out, to just kind of go over them again real quickly, is with the Hecarim deck, we're really looking for the Rekindler. But then there's also other cards to where we can make copies of Hecarim, whether or not it's the 5-cost Ionia guy that copies a card in your hand, whether or not it's the Harrowing that was just added here. Spectral Matron does it. Just whatever ways we can do to copy Hecarim. Where's that? It's not Shadow Flare. It's Dawn and Dusk that also will copy your Hecarim. So we either look to be a real Hecarim-centric deck and use these cards to make copies of them, just overwhelm our opponent with value. It's just definitely just a don't lose until you win deck. The weakness in the deck is that in round one you only have one Hecarim. Round 2 and 3 you only have 2 Hecarims. So if you aren't able to copy it, or if you never draw it, if your build around theme may just not happen. The other deck we mentioned was the Shark Chariot deck. This is basically just trying to use Sparring Student and Greenglade Duo in conjunction with Shark Chariot to just be putting a whole bunch of units on the board every time you attack. So if you have 2 Sparring Students on board, you attack with an Ephemeral, you'll be getting Shark Chariots in play that also boost your Sparring Students again. That's kind of idea number 2 of the decks that exist here. And then the third one that exists is basically just trying to play a Elusives deck with Zed. Zed is premier unit, and then Shadow Assassin and Greenglade Duo are the premier ephemerals. From that list, they did just add the 1-cost guy that has the 2/1 that Devori Blade Scout. There we go. That has ephemeral the turn you play. There's also access to Solitary Monk here. And then I found in these ephemeral decks, you always want 1 copy of Dawn and Dusk. You'll end up, copying a Usari at some point, or you'll copy a like the Empyrean. Even Greenglade Duo does quite good enough with Dawn and Dusk, but that's kind of the third deck that we'll be considering trying to put together. But these all depend on what we see here in the future. Okay, so we're going to take our Hecarim here. We're not taking Darius. This is a bad Darius pile. Noxum Might does play okay with Zed, but it's not going to synergize as well as Shadows and Dust, and this cloning program in Nivea is garbage. Okay, there he is, right from the start. There's the Shark Chariot and the Twin Disciplines. This is a pretty powerful pack. It's on theme. If we're going to take Shadows and Dust cards, we should continue to see these in wild packs and such future because of that cohesiveness rating. If we start ignoring Shadows and Dust, we shouldn't be seeing these cards in the future. So we're kind of pretty heavily incentivized to take these two here. They kind of point us towards the sparring student kind of deck, but they do both play pretty well in the elusives. Here, this pack's just not good enough. We'd be okay to pick up these cards, but these are the kind of cards to where, if, say, we're really trying to pick up a Shark Chariot and one of these cards happen to be with it, then we're happy to take them. These aren't cards that we really just want to take on their own. And Jeweled Protector is an extremely powerful unit. It doesn't really fit in with any of the themes except for the ephemerals. It's pretty strong to boost up your Zed with the Jeweled Protector. It doesn't play so well with the Hecarim or with the ephemerals theme, but it's good. Pretty good with elusives. But we're gonna jump in on this Shark Chariot. Here, interesting things. I'm mainly interested in these combat tricks here. They're just so extremely good. The only kind of interaction that exists in this deck for our opponent's units is Vengeance. They just added Vengeance to the Hecarim side. This doesn't have things like Vile Feast or Grasp of the Undying. Just no real ways to interact with our opponent's units outside of combat tricks. And these are pretty good ones. But over here, not too interested in this. Shadow Assassin's okay, the Lookout's pretty garbage. Do have a hard time passing on Commander Ladros, but he feels ultimately pretty unnecessary when we're playing Hecarim. It's just, if you're going to play a big monster that wins the game, we already have the big monster that we want to play. So let's pick up these combat tricks. Let's see how this continues forward. Okay. These we don't really want. I'm not a huge fan of either of the 2-drops that appear on the Shadow Isles side. The guy that gives your ephemerals 1/1, and then the guy that makes a guy ephemeral. They're okay. They're 5 stats of unit with upside for 2 mana, so that, they're fine. They're statted at the right price. I'm just not a huge fan of what they actually do. Over here, it's our first Vengeance, which I think we're likely going to take, although we are kind of incentivized to take this Greenglade duo. But we aren't. We seem to be leaning towards the more kind of combat-centric decks, which would not just be a Hecarim build around, but we'll see how that pans out. We haven't seen anything to really get big value out of him. These cards are all garbage. I think both of these are unplayable. The Crocolith can be okay. I just think it's a real polarized card. It's either really good or really bad, and the times when it's really good, I don't think I make up for the times where it's really bad. I would rather just have Bull Elnick as opposed to this 7/7. It's really hard for things to go wrong with Bull Elnick, and it's really hard for him to get kind of taken advantage of in combat. But with Ancient Crocolith, if your opponent has a Will of Ionia or something, it just sets you so far behind, and that just additional few points of stats don't really make up for it. I think we're just going to be taking these. I don't want to get my deck kind of tainted with these Ionia cards, even though these are both extremely good cards. I just have the fear that if we start taking Total Recall here out of Ionia, or out of Piltover, it's going to start showing us a bunch of Piltover cards, and it's not going to be showing us Shadows and Dust cards. So I'm just going to take this Afterlife pile to ensure that we kind of stay within Shadow Isles. This is a pretty mediocre pack. There are some minor combos with this, as if you want to Mist's Call a Shark Chariot or something. But overall, this is a pretty weak pack amongst a big set of weak packs. Okay, here's another Shark Chariot. I think we want to go for it. We don't have any other ephemerals except for Zed. And so this might be kind of hard to pull off. We do have, the Stirred Spirits. Mark of the Owls can make something ephemeral. We have ways to kind of do it, but not a whole lot of ways. I might be kind of leaning towards this Soul Gorger because we haven't seen anything to copy Hecarim. It's hard to be a build-around deck when the cards you need for the build-around Hecarim don't exist. So we could take Soul Gorger as, kind of some more top-end, but I think I'm just going to stick with the Shark Chariots. That seems to be the deck we're building towards, and so I'd like to see how that pans out. Kind of, at least one of the bonuses with these twin disciplines is you tend to have to be getting guys like Stirred Spirits into combat, and just having a way to protect him could be pretty important since you can't protect him with Mark of the Isles. Okay, we're going to take this. I have a real hard time passing on my ways to copy Zed, or copy Hecarim, and we'll find a Rekindler or two at some point. We just need to get to that point, and this is a pretty good set of cards to do it with. Spirits of Refuge is just an extremely good combat trick, and that it gives barrier. It really helps us just get to the late game with the lifesteal. This is just pretty powerful. I don't like Haunted Relic. These cards down here are okay, but we don't really have good enablers for them. So I think I'm pretty happy to take this Shield Wall set. Okay, there we go. Here's our Rekindler. We're coin flipping on a Wraithcaller. If we hit, we hit. If we don't, we don't. We aren't a dedicated Wraithcaller deck, but we definitely want usually 2 Rekindlers. Okay. Interesting sets. The Sparring Student Deny play most on theme here. I do like having access to 1 Deny as a way to, just protect our Hecarim. And these other sets aren't that spectacular. I was kind of interested in Key Guardian, since it, kind of guarantees your Hecarim gets an attack in without dying. The lookout's pretty bad. I'm not interested in these down here. Tortured Prodigy's garbage, and we aren't in a Spider's theme. So we'll take the Sparring Student and the Deny. Okay, here's a pretty big pack. This is an ephemeral that we're definitely looking to have. He just makes it so much easier to get into the late game. And then if we draw a Harrowing somewhere along the way, just plays extremely well with the Harrowing. And this is going to be our second Vengeance, and so it really helps us get towards playing a Hecarim-centered deck. We do have, the 2 Shark Chariots, which are kind of awkward. We might be able to get some early game value out of them, but they aren't really that on theme with what we've been able to put together. And here, we're not looking for these. Rush is okay, but it's not up to par with these 2 boomers here. Okay, and I think this is exactly what we're looking for. Just kind of a early game play to clog up the board, maybe get a touch of value out of, and a removal spell. Pretty happy with this set. I'd be okay with Shadow Assassin, but these 2 are just pretty much on par with being way stronger. Like what I find you tend to happen with these Hecarim decks is you try to get your opponent down to like 10, just so all your attacks are threatening lethal. If your opponent's still at 20 once you're starting to do Hecarim things, they can kind of avoid the attacks for a little bit. But if you're able to get in some chip damage with Arachnoid Horrors, make your attacks look pretty scary. That's the spot you're ideally looking to be in. Okay. These still only really want 1 Deny. Haunted Relic's no good. These cards are pretty trash. So we're going to take this Withering Well and the Vengeance. 3 Vengeances is too many. We're definitely going to try to get rid of one of these. But Withering Wail really plays into the stall the game until Hecarim comes online plan. Okay. These are pretty close, but I think the Darkwater Scourge is just it's just one of the premier units. What you'll end up happening with him is you can just play it on your opponent's turn and they can't attack, or it's such a huge life swing on your turn. I'm really impressed with these guys. This would be a great set if we were in one of the unit-centric decks, but we aren't. And I'd be glad to have Vile Feasts, but it doesn't match up to the power of these 2. Okay, we're hanging on to our Zephyr Sage. I think I want to keep my Mark of the Isles as well. It's just so good, even if you're just boosting like your Spectral Riders. I don't think we want to make any of these trades. Soul Shepherds we don't want. We would be okay with Horrors, but not at the cost of Mark of the Isles. Can't get rid of our Sage. He's our only way to copy. Well, we do have a Rekindler, but he's our only way to actually copy Hecarim. Okay, let's see if we can get past these initial rounds here. That is kind of one of the scary things. Like, if we actually draw Hecarim in our opener, we'll keep him. It's just our deck, you know, at this stage doesn't have to draw Hecarim, but we feel a lot better about things if we do. So with these, I'm kind of interested in this. Oh, that combo doesn't work. I was like, Mistcall and Death Water Scourge, you can just kind of bring him back and get all the infinite values. No, that's not how that works. And so I think we want to still hang on to Wraithcaller, and then can get rid of these two. I don't feel like this is a deck where we're going to get a whole lot of value out of like Mark of the Isles early, because we're really just going to be making two for ones when we try to play him. Okay, we're fine to just bank up to 3 spell mana. I'm pretty okay with just getting Shark Chariot online and bashing, especially since he didn't have another unit. And then, however much we fall behind next turn, then we can just make up for it with Darkwater Scourges. But the thing I'm thinking of doing here is just attacking with Shark Chariot and Mist-calling it back. And then so when we start playing these Darkwater Scourges, we'll get 2 Shark Chariots out of it. I have a hard time imagining we're going to get a whole lot more value out of this Mist-call. Like we can, you know, try to Mist-call a Wraithcaller, but it's not looking real likely that that's going to be a thing. This guy just got boosted as well. He has 4 attack instead of 3. I don't think that was a huge upgrade. Riot said it was to make him a better attacker. I think it's really just to make him a better blocker. You typically aren't getting, you know, open attacks with this guy. He's getting one here, but that's not something you're typically pulling on. Oh shit! I should have just played Wraithcaller. That's okay. Banking up the spell mana will be fine, but we should have played Wraithcaller. I had it in my mind I was going to play this to keep his tracker from attacking. And then it just didn't happen. I'm doing this all wrong. I should have played Soul Shepherd as well. I'm playing this game poorly, guys. We should have got a +1 boost out of this, and then we're at least going to boost our Shark Chariots when we attack. But making this a 3/3 was not that important. Okay. That's a pretty reasonable time walk. I don't know if we want to play this. If we don't, I think we want to bank this spell mana so we'll have access to Vengeance next turn. And so getting this online is not that important.
How dare you?
Okay. That was great for us. Feels like we're super far ahead now. Might need to still, you know, pick up Hecarim to close this out, but as far as the stage of the game goes, it feels pretty good. Sure. Okay, I'm cool just bringing her down. Don't need to let him get a bunch of turns of value out of this thing. Sure.
I go unseen.
This is fine. We're just gonna gain all this back. We don't really have to play the Scourge this turn, but I think we want to. Let's do like this. Let's at least get him boosted. And we'll have some big shark chariot attacks into him.
Happy to do whatever's needed.
Can actually attack with this as well. It sucks to have to use these pre-combat, but it is something we can do to get ephemeral attacks in next turn. I think our Hecarim should be flipped if we ever draw him. Right, we got in 1 attack with a Shark Chariot and then 2 attacks with a Scourge plus 2 Chariots for a total of 7. So if we ever draw him, he should be flipped. There you go, better lucky than good. We do have to take these, but I mean, we gained 11 off of those Scourges, and so these attacks are much less scary. You know, if we were at, you know, 9, that's getting us threatened pretty close to lethal, but not the case here. We still need to draw some of our top end. That was kind of one of the weaknesses of our draft here. Do we want to protect any of this? Because I want to make an ephemeral next turn and not lose this. But I think I'm okay if I just Twin Disciplines. I'd have to if I Twin Disciplines, I'd have to do it on this one. I think this is okay. We will have to switch our Shadow Isles, or Mark of the Isles, over to this thing. But then we still just have good attacks with everything next turn.
The advantage is mine.
You're not Hecarim. Okay. Let's boost this guy. And if he gets too greedy here, we might be able to kill him with the mark. He definitely has to do block at least 2 of these. We're pretty cool with just clearing out his board. You know, the bad thing being is this guy's likely just blocking Wraithcaller, and then so our board's just going to be dead, and we're not going to have anything to add to it.
Eyes open.
Ooh, not using him's kind of dangerous, friend. I think we need to go for it here. We're pretty far behind. He hasn't really played any removal spells, so there is a decent chance that this Shark Chariot gets hit with Mystic Shot. But I don't think we're really going to get a whole lot more value out of that. Maybe this was a little too greedy, and that if we ever do draw another unit, we can use it to bring back our Shark Chariots. But so it's going to keep him at 1. Okay, that's a... Why wouldn't he just single combat this guy? Prevent 4 damage. Oh, this protects his elusive. Okay. I get you. But yeah, we maybe. That's fine. Much happier to see it on this thing as opposed to a life thing. the lifesteal elusive. So he probably should have flipped his blocks around. He's repping 8. It's not repping lethal yet, but we can't kill him with just an ephemeral. Haven't drawn any champions either, which makes you a bit awkward. A little bit awkward, friend.
They would fall by my blade.
Return to us.
Alright. So at least this turns up a lot of his attacks. Oh god. Oh, nope, hang on. Nope, no, no. That heals it, right? I was like, well, at least this is going to double to 4, but that actually heals his Fiora. Okay, we're pretty screwed this game.
I will confront you.
He just skipped on lethal. He could have hooked him with the Sky and then rep 12. So there's nothing we can do. Let's see if we draw something good. Well, maybe he'll fuck things up. We can at least get some damages in here. This is a forced block on 3 units. And so if we can whittle his board down a little bit, we might be able to protect ourselves with Withering Wail.
My eyes make it fair.
Precision and grace.
Sure, you're gonna spend a combat track on this? Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. When oh sure, it's a cute way to do it. You know, in the first couple games to where it's pretty tough when you're trying to play a Hecarim centered deck and you only have one. You can kind of see with him drawing 2 champions and me drawing 0 with one of my enablers just sitting in hand. It's tough in these first 2. So it's usually if you're able to get to that hump to where you've gotten your 3rd win, things get a lot easier. But we do have to get to that point. Here, I would like to pick up this Dawn and Dusk, but I think getting rid of Mist's Call is more important. This card is just not any good. And the duo can at least, you know, like in that game we played, duo would have been pretty good. So I think we can move forward a bit. We're not really expecting to get wins with Greenglade duo, but you know, if it does, you know, 4 damage and forces our opponent to spend a spell on it, then we're pretty happy with that outcome. Okay, kind of similar to the last game. I think we can keep the Scourge and the Chariot, and get rid of the others. These draws are a bit awkward with Shark Chariot when you're on the even token and you can't really do anything with it, but getting up to 3 mana is not the end of the world, especially when we have 2 Twin Disciplines. Oh, I forgot to turn Blitz on again. I thought about it last game and then it slipped my mind. I just hit play. Sure.
Of course I'm ready.
Okay, this draws a little bit on the awkward side. We're gonna have to go ahead and grasp this Prodigy. Not a huge fan of having to spend 5 mana to deal with 2, but we just need time here. This draw is super fucking awkward. 2 combat tricks, 2 vengeances, and a deny. Like, this is sure. If you're familiar with my work, one of the things I talk about a lot with wanting to stack up your champions is to alleviate this, right? If we draw a hand that's you know, 7 units, then we're in the game. We can do things with that. If we draw a hand of 7 spells, we're pretty hosed. Here, and we missed. Story of our life, this game. But right, and that's kind of one of the power in stacking up your champions is that you can, you know, if we draw 2 Hecarims, then we can. Don't think I want to attack with this. If we draw 2 Hecarims, and you know, we at least have the spell out of that second copy. No, we'll have to protect this now. I don't know if this could be really bad. Well, at least we'll have a deny. if he tries to do something with Heimerdinger. It sucks in that a lot of the spells that are good with Heimer are burst spells. But I mean, if he didn't play, what's his name? He didn't play the 3-cost burst spell. We're in a pretty bad fucking spot here. No two ways around that.
Here we go.
Okay. Look, we just have to do try to do everything here. We'll at least preserve a little bit of our health with Darkwater Scourge, but oh god, oh sure. So it's going to give him the fearsome. We probably can't win this game without a Withering Wail. He's going to get so much value ahead of us with this Heimer. I mean, maybe I should have just ate that damage and venged his Heimer. This is pretty bad. We're just going to have to leave it on board. Well, no, we can play Scourge next turn if we need to. Watch this get denied. I feel it, boys. It's gonna get denied. This is just the way this one's going. Shadow Shift, okay, sure. And Karma. Come on. We've drawn 0 champions to our opponent's 4. It's not a great start for the team here, boys. I don't know if we can come back from this one. Okay, so I mean, we can play Darkwater Scourge behind this, but how much damage are we looking to take? We can block this thing, like we can block 7, and then we're going to be taking 4, 7, 10. Ugh. I think we can get away with just playing the duo. We can't Vengeance Karma anymore.
Where are you going?
Do we want to protect the duo here? We have to protect one of these units. I think we'll get more value out of keeping this Wraith Caller around. Okay. So can we ignore Karma? Like, he's going to get one more spell off of her. If he starts doubling spells, like, do we... I think we probably, lose to it either way, between this and his Heimerdinger. Let's see what happens here. Let's get our Zed online. I think I want to get the Scourge online as well, but it's tough. We have to Vengeance either Karma or Heimerdinger. He's just going to get so much value out of them. I think we just want to pop his Heimerdinger. Like, Karma's about to not be good. It's hard for him to actually have a deck built around her flip effect. I mean, he could do it. Oh god. Oh, recall. Okay. This is all just so brutal.
Added to the bug list.
Okay. So we'll have to play Scourge on his turn if we have the opportunity.
The answer lies within.
Because we can't eat this attack. We have to be able to block with Scourge this turn. Oh, Withering Wail changes that. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and get Zed down in case there's a world that he wants to attack with this Karma.
Supposed to be here?
Okay.
Do not disappoint me.
Do we want to just put damage on this or just take the 5? I think I just want to eat this one. See if he'll offer it up for a trade with the Scourge next turn. I have to assume that he probably won't. We'll die to a combat trick though.
Oh, you're in for it.
I can't imagine winning this game. We're like 100 cards behind. But, I mean, this he's trying to give us the opportunities. Yep, sure thing, boss. Alright, but this was a pretty disappointing run, but there's not a whole lot we could have done this one. Like, you can't really expect to win these games when you know, you keep two units in your opening hand, mulligan the other 2 cards, and then your next 6 cards off your deck are all spells. It's just too hard to come back from that. Like, it was 2 people that, you know, drew 2 champions both games. We did draw a Zed there at the end, but Zed on turn 9 is definitely not a Zed on turn 3. It's just overall a pretty weak run. Our deck was okay. It certainly wasn't the best Shadows and Dust Shadows and Dust deck I've ever seen, but it was certainly serviceable and certainly better than a 0-win run. But I thought we played that pretty well. I thought we drafted that pretty well. It just you know, you're not going to win them all, and that was certainly a variance heavy run. But it was pretty cool. I'm glad to get jumping in on this last patch before the new set. I'm ready to get in, you know, a couple more expeditions before everything's shaken up again. And I do want to at least take a moment to say, you know, I completely love how Riot is working on all these expeditions and all these changes they're making so frequently. Somebody that, you know, played Hearthstone to Legend every month for, you know, 2, 3, 4 years in a row, however long I did it. You know, month 3 and month 4 roll around and it's fucking boring. Like, there's a chance that they would, you know, maybe change cards like 2 months in, but that was very minimal, and so it's quite refreshing, at least from the perspective of somebody that plays a whole lot, to having these changes every 2 weeks, even if they're minor. It's great to see that Riot's really getting in there and shaking up the game, so it's just not a fucking chore to log on and see if you can't grind, you know, 30 ranks in ladder and finish your daily quests. And so, hats off to Riot. I approve of the work you're doing. But this run was a little bit of a disappointment. Certainly a fun one, but just not as successful in the sense of the wins we got. But I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed. This is Free to Play Bust. Thank you for being here.